Well, welcome everybody. Today is January 4th, 2013. My name is Deborah, and with me are my co-hosts, Al Stefanelli. Al, how are you?
I'm doing well. Deborah, how are you doing this evening?
Little space, otherwise it's new, right?
Well, that's normal for me, so I guess that's good.
And also is my dear friend and our part-time occasional co-host, which I hope is all the time, Elaine. How are you tonight, Elaine?
I'm good. Thank you, Deborah. And hi, Al. I hope you're doing well, too.
This was on New Year's weekend, or not weekend, just day or whatever, but this story came out from Belgium, which I found really interesting, that criminal charges have been brought by the Belgium Federal Prosecutor's Office against the Church of Scientology. And the prosecutor's office has accused the church and two of its senior executives of the illegal practice of the art of healing, of fraud, extortion, forgery, and the use of false documents, breach of privacy, and being and they're also calling them a criminal organization, which I think is absolutely huge. And this case it stems from a 2008 investigation. This lady, she answers this ad in the want ads, and she goes to apply for this administrative job, and she finds out that to get the job, she has to sign a paper saying she'll be a member of the church for 2.5 to 5 years. I'm thinking, whoa, this is kind of a weird way of recruiting church members. And so on the heels of that story, I think that our show tonight could not be more timely. And I need to thank Tay for pulling together our forum of international women who are going to be talking about the Church of Scientology. They were all members of this. Tay had called in during our Narcanon program telling us of some really kind of bizarre things that had happened to her, and then she suggested the show, and of course I jumped on it, and so here we go. So with that, I'd like to introduce Tay. Thank you, Tay, for joining the God Discussion Show.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for having us all on your show.
Well, where do we begin? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience in Scientology and why you believe that this needs to be shared with the world?
I was 17 years young, open-minded, altruistic, and searching for something to ease the pain of my beloved best friend and brother who had just died and leaving me adrift. My family was destroyed by Scientology. Because I seemed to be so happy after I got in, everyone in my family signed up. When I first got in, I was love bombed. I was told I could not only heal myself, but also the pain of the world. I started taking classes immediately to become a Scientology counselor called an auditor. I was convinced to give them all of my college money, which added up to thousands of dollars. I had some great wins on these basic courses and made a new batch of friends, and that's the hook. That's what gets people in and keeps them in, looking for the rest of their lives for similar wins. During my time in Scientology, I was guided to have abortions. They told me that it was the greatest good for the greatest number, and if I had a child, how was I going to take care of a child, be a good mom, and then also do all my courses and all that stuff. So you were told that abortion is good? Yes, I was told that it would keep me from doing more good for the church if I had a child.
Oh God! Oh geez! Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Wild, huh? So
yeah.
when I left the Sea organization, they considered you to be what's called a degraded being, which is a really horrible thing to call somebody. I mean, think of somebody who's on the street and completely bereft and all that. Because I left staff, and they treated me like I didn't matter except to bring cash in. So I did. And I got my family to keep buying services. My family spent almost every dime, sold their home, all our college funds, etc., to go up the bridge themselves. My sister joined the Sea Org in my stead after I got out, and she went to the flagship. She married 4 times, and then she was put on the RPF, which is the Rehabilitation Project Force. That's like the Gulag. That's their prison. This broke apart our family, and it broke my mother's heart and spirit. It completely broke my mother, who was the sweetest person. And it was all for naught, the bridge to nowhere.
I know there is so much that you have to say, and I wish we had time to go so deep into this, because I see how emotional it is for you, and I see how it has affected your life. But we do have to go to Nancy. But I'm sitting here listening to you, listening to your story, and it's intriguing to me, and it literally tugs at me. Nancy Maney is with us, and she's the author of My Billion-Year Contract, the memoir of a former Scientologist, which offers a bird's-eye view into the very secret aspects of the Scientology organization.
Right. Well, Nancy is unmuted right now, so here we go.
Nancy, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Hi. Hey, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We do appreciate your time and the attention that you're giving us. I know you're very busy. I did want to ask you one thing. Wondering if you would tell us a little bit about your thoughts on child care organizations.
First of all, the overall view of child care, and I come first from just being an executive in Scientology. In their lead organization, Satay talked about the one where you sign the billion-year contract. And before I became pregnant with my own son, there were many situations with children that were in Scientology. There are a litany of horror stories I could share with you, but I won't, because one will do. And basically there was, in Los Angeles was the largest concentration of children. So Hubbard decided that the parents, first of all, the parents weren't allowed time to see their children. They got 1 hour at meal times to visit with their children. That's in a 24-hour day, basically 7 days a week. That's the amount of parent-child time that was allowed.
Wow.
So these children are growing up completely unsupervised and wild. Hubbard did some investigations into it, and he decided or discovered, quote unquote, that the parents didn't care about their kids. He never brought up the fact that the parents never had time to see their kids. He just adjudicated that the parents weren't taking care of their own children. So he started this brand new organization called the Cadet Organization, and this was an organization for children and run by children, sort of like a little Lord of the Flies kind of thing. And these children, Scientology children, don't get an education. It's considered that if they study Scientology, that's all they'll need, because that's what's really important. So you have these children running wild in the streets of Los Angeles. They had horrific living situations for the children. The children did not sleep with their parents. I mean, the parents only had that 1 hour a day called family time.
Wow. Did they not realize the importance of education and nurturing and all that? You know, I've got kids and grandkids. I can't imagine only spending an hour a day with my children.
Children in Scientology are considered adults in little bodies. They're considered adults in little bodies. When this is skipping a little bit forward, but the second time I was sent to the Rehabilitation Project Force, the gulag that Satay talked about, I had a 2.5, almost 3-year-old son. And my husband and I were both sent under guard to this other building across town where we weren't allowed to even talk to each other, let alone see our son. And we were told if we were really good, that after 2 weeks of being really good, we could see our son for 20 minutes 3 days out of the week. So basically 1 hour a week would be allowed.
Wow.
That is just unconscionable.
It is, absolutely. I can't even imagine that.
believe me, my jaw was on the floor, and I was just like, how can I get out of here and go get my son? In trying to get me to stay, these other Scientology women who, I must say that it's a turn of the words, but they drank the Kool-Aid, shall we say. And they would tell me these stories about how my little boy was really this eternal spiritual being, and he was responsible for his own condition. So if something bad happened to him, it was his fault. This is at the age of 2.5.
Oh.
And I said, well, I don't think so. And she went on to explain to me with her child, when she was 3, she got under the kitchen cabinet and into some poison. Now, this was the child's fault, because she was a spiritual being and should have known better.
Oh, my goodness. And that just leaves a door open to all sorts of things.
And that is the core bottom line value within Scientology towards children. That leads to a better understanding of why abortions are no big deal. It leads to a better understanding of why children are asked to join the contract for 1 billion years as young as the age of 10. They're not children, and this is why Katie Holmes was so lucky to have gotten her daughter out of that environment before she became of an age in which she would be indoctrinated. We did escape. My husband and I did escape the next day, and it wasn't easy to do. And as of this time period, right now, as we speak, there are people locked up across the world in these thought reform camps. And while we were under guard and had to really do a whole master plan to get out of there to go get our son back, these people can't even do that. There are cameras everywhere. Doors are locked everywhere.
Wow.
So, the security on keeping
them
in
sounds like a prison.
It is a prison. It is a prison. And it's a prison in America. It's a prison in England. It's a prison in Australia. And a lot of people that arrive in this prison are the children that joined at 10, 12 years old and then didn't do well. So they're sent for punishment into these prison systems. And basically, more like a thought reform camp. Yes, you're under guard and everything, and it is a prison, but you're meant to be there until your thoughts are better, until you're thinking like the group wants you to think. So I had this one friend of mine who more recently than I came out of the organization. He had an experience in the Rehabilitation Project Force. He had been kept in there for 7 years. 7 years. That's like, don't manslaughter people get 7 years?
It's almost like your soul would die in something. You know what I mean? For me, it's amazing that people can even find hope and find that inner strength to even get out of it if they're in a camp like that long.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And this individual said, it was okay because it wasn't really like a prison because I could have left at any time. And I messaged him privately, and I said, I don't know what RPF you were in, but I could never leave when I wanted to. And he thought a bit, and he wrote back, and he said, yeah, there was that time those 3 guys tackled me when I wanted to leave. And then he listed a litany of these various times that he wanted to leave but was physically prevented from leaving. And it is physical prevention. It's not all this, they just have you there because you're brainwashed or something. No, there's also the physical of it and the threat of, as Satay so clearly described, your entire family is held hostage. If you ever want to see your family again, you got to do the program.